The identity of the girl has baffled police since her body was found near Toronto early on Saturday. Believed to be around 13 to 14 years of age, police say the girl was fully clothed, wearing a pair of long grey tights, underwear and a black sleeveless top. The teenager had a gold sleeper earring in her left ear and a silver ring on her left hand. Police say there was a large wart on her right hand, a distinguishing feature which they hoped would lead to her identity. Last night, NBN News showed photographs of the girl and the response was overwhelming.
A very good response. We'd actually like to thank you for passing that on to the members of the public. As a result of that, we've had some information. There won't be an identification today, but we're fairly sure that we'll get one in the next few days.
Following the post-mortem, police are still waiting on results from toxicology tests before establishing an exact cause of death. When her identity is confirmed, detectives believe there'll be another breakthrough in this baffling case.
It gives us a point to start as to where she is, how long she's been missing, and obviously the natural tracing of movements up until when she was found.
Melinda Smith, NBN News. For the past 2 days, 13 aircraft have been sweeping a wide area near Newcastle but have failed to find any sign of wreckage. The missing Cessna 152 aircraft with call sign Romeo November November departed from Rutherford near Maitland around 6:30 on Saturday night. The single-engine plane was piloted by 37-year-old Mark Alexander Fleming, a seasoned aviator with 18 years flying experience.
He was an experienced pilot. He loved flying, that was his life.
For parents, Thelma and Lionel Fleming, the past 48 hours have been a nightmare. Mark, who lived at home with his parents, described as a loving son who always kept in touch during his flights using a mobile phone, which was left behind.
It's been a little upsetting from time to time, but I've got to face the fact and the realities of what might have happened.
The search continued today, covering nearly 4,500 square kilometres. After thoroughly searching the area 4 times, Aviation Search and Rescue today called off the operation. They say given the terrain, it's unusual there's been no signs of an emergency beacon and no positive sightings of any wreckage. Today, police confirmed the pilot was due to appear in a Queensland court tomorrow on a number of charges. Melinda Smith, NBN News. On Wednesday night, the Cons Hall will be alive with the sound of some of the greatest concert organ music ever written.
A good deal of organ music written for the concert hall, as opposed perhaps to the cathedral, does have very warm emotional elements in it, and much of the music that I'm playing on Wednesday evening is really concert organ music rather than liturgical music.
Regarded as one of Australia's most distinguished performers, Michael Dudman has played for countless audiences since giving his first public recital at the age of 14, and his career is packed with memorable highlights.
I suppose playing live via satellite for the 50th anniversary of the ABC to some millions of people, a nerve-wracking occasion, but great fun.
Dean of Music at the university's Conservatorium, he's played on several hundred organs around the world, a feat that can sometimes take more than a little effort.
Oh yes. After practicing for 40 minutes or an hour or so, you really do need to have a break.
On this day in 1922, 21-year-old Roy and 19-year-old Orella walked down the aisle. They'd planned to elope, but the young bride's father found out.
He said we'd have to come down to Bathurst and get married in the Presbyterian church down there.
They met at a railway picnic. At the time, Orella was being courted by someone else, but Roy was smitten.
What I think of her, I thought she was the nicest girl on the long.
His persistence paid off, and 72 years later the pair are still together, living at Belmont's Nala Village nursing home, where they're visited regularly by their 3 children, 11 grandchildren and 24 great-grandchildren. So what's the secret behind more than 7 decades of marriage?
We've had good times and bad times. We've had arguments, but we've never quarrelled.
The couple has endured several heart attacks, major strokes and arthritis, but relatives say they remain in good spirits and in love. And although they're only 5 years behind the Australian title for the longest marriage, there's every chance they could become record breakers.
We still like each other. Have our arguments, but we get over it.
I didn't think I'd get over the 70 and 72. Well, we're happy to be alive, that's all.
Air travellers can now catch a direct 30-minute jet service between Canberra and Newcastle. This Beach Jet 400A belonging to Impulse Air is usually reserved for company executives and does the occasional charter job for New South Wales Premier John Fahey. Impulse Air took over from the well-known regional carrier Oxley, and with the change came a new generation of passenger aircraft. Pressurised prop-driven planes remain the backbone of the operation, but some passengers are becoming accustomed to the timbered and leather interior of the Beach Jet. The jet is filling in as Impulse aligns itself with Ansett and the company's fleet get new paint jobs. Another regional airline, Eastern Australia, now flies under the Qantas Kangaroo. It seems the major carriers are also looking for that throughput from regional hubs.
Yes, that's right. They're looking for the on-carriage from the smaller communities. We actually are looking at bypassing Sydney Airport as a hub buster.
The jet will only be used on the Newcastle to Canberra service for the next 3 weeks. After that, it goes back to flying executive charters. Andrew Lobb, NBN News. The recession has taken hold of areas around Cessnock and Curry, resulting in some of the highest rates of youth unemployment in the state. Along with few opportunities for work, young people also have little to do in an area described by community workers as isolated and lacking in resources for the young.
Oh, there's just no stuff for our age people to do. Like, there used to be a pinball parlour down the road, but we just haven't got that anymore. And there's just nothing for our age people to do.
Many young people say they don't have the means or the opportunity to make changes. A lot rely on family ties that bind them to the area.
All my families grew up around here, so everyone's around here, and all your friends and everything live in here, so if you moved anywhere else you wouldn't know anyone really.
I think it's just a very good recognition that the community has a positive response to the problems that young people face by the sheer virtue of the fact we're having a community meeting to engage support for the development of a youth centre, says to me that the community has grasped the needs of young people and has decided to take a responsible attitude to that.
The Curry Workers Club has leased the local community centre a house which may be converted to a youth centre, and so far reactions have been positive.
It was the 6th time that BHP has tried to bring its bulk carrier in, and at $1,000 an hour to operate, having it anchored off Newcastle is becoming an expensive predicament. As the minutes ticked away at this afternoon's high tide, the 3 BHP-owned Hunter ports towage tugs were waiting in position in the harbour entrance, but the pilot was unwilling to bring the Spencer in without a fourth. Nearby, the 4 tugboats belonging to the long-established Newcastle Ports Towage Services were tied up, available to do the job. But BHP wanted to hire only 1 extra vessel, and so Newcastle Towage once again refused to cooperate. The company says it's willing to supply all 4 of its vessels, but 1 only if the others are engaged. So at 4:15, the BHP tugs departed, the cutter went back outside to collect the pilot, and the Iron Spencer returned to its anchorage at sea. BHP said it's exploring all angles to find a solution, but says its dispute is with the Hunter Ports Authority for not conducting trials bringing large vessels into the port using just 3 tugs. The Hunter Ports Authority, on the other hand, says it's a matter between the 2 tug companies. What happens to the Iron Spencer in the meantime? Well, it'll try again at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
The 2 codes have selected 8 players each, but there's no secret training camps or tactics. Players from both teams spent a bit of time with the Falcons today to pick up a few tips. Bobby Newmill from the Breakers may in fact turn out to be the surprise package, potting goals today from all angles. Goalkeeper Clint Gosling wasn't going to be outdone, and with the help of the cameraman scored an even more incredible basket. Gosling says he was brought up on a diet of soccer, but basketball has many of the same principles.
Me being a goalkeeper, catching the ball, I think that's the only thing that's the same. Speed around the court's probably the same.
Anyone with further information is asked to contact their nearest police station or Toronto detective. Alison Smith, NBN News.
Advance House 1 customers for houses at various stages of completion. and 66 other people either awaiting building approval or with dwellings not yet begun. Mr. Lloyd says he's negotiating with several parties interested in purchasing the advance company as a going concern. Any new owner might agree to complete, or the customer could make claims through the Building Services Corporation insurance scheme to have the work done. Either way, the administrator is confident the work will be done without financial loss to the homeowners.
If you just happened to stumble onto the beach today, you would have found something alarming about the lifesavers. All of them were aged from 30 up to their 60s, as today's competition was exclusively for the Masters. One of the veterans of the Masters competition is Swansea Belmont boatie Bob Gregory, who is still going strong at 62. How many Australian titles have you been in all up over the years?
Couldn't count. I don't know, like.
Okay.
There's that many, it goes back all them years, you miss some and you go to some, you know, but over the last 10, 15, 20 years I haven't missed any, I don't think.
Another boat crew in the 45 and over division, Nobbies near Newcastle, narrowly missed out on winning their 4th gold in a row when South Coast boat Mollymook caught onto a wave and pipped them at the post. Newcastle policeman John Anderson came out of a 3-year retirement to win the Blue Ribbon event for his club Stockton. After trying for an Australian title in the Open Ironman for nearly 10 years, he gave it away when he hit 30. Today, at age 33, he finally got gold in the Ironman, albeit the Masters division.
It has taken a long time, probably 15 years, been going a long time, and it feels great to finally get there.
The one day of Masters competition is the curtain raiser to the Australian titles, which is the country's biggest sporting event, attracting more than 5,000 competitors. Tomorrow will be a lay day before the Open events run from Friday through to the Ironman final on Sunday. Jason Ewenhoff, NBN News.
This is the 2-page report which revealed the latest problem. According to Dr Smythe, it's part of the Hunter Area Health Services annual review of bed reductions at the Mater during the Christmas-New Year period. The report showed that during the months of December and January, as many as 16 patients were forced to stay overnight in the Mater's emergency department before they could be moved to a ward.
Well, as the report indicates, that only occurred on a number of times during the month, and the simple solution to that is to make sure the Mater has more of its beds open in the latter part of January.
The hospital's emergency department has 5 allocated beds. The report showed that on average 6.1 patients stayed overnight during December. That rose to 6.9 in January. Dr Smythe says the purpose of the annual review is to reveal such problems and address them.
But quite simply making sure the Mater's got more of them open. It's not an issue of more beds, it's just making sure they're open in the latter part of January, and that's what we'll do.
Earlier this week, the Mater made 10 new beds available to cope with the current general demand and ease the pressure on the emergency department. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
With a golden sunset, calm waters and breathtaking scenery, the Lord Mayor could have been forgiven for thinking he was on a pleasure cruise. But the great weather and beauty was lost on the crew. It was tunnel vision for the sailors, on a mission to fire the first live missile from HMAS Newcastle. With a mind-boggling maze of switches and controls, the crew were flat out remembering what they all meant.
This here is the propulsion control console. We have control of both one Alpha, one Bravo gas turbine. We have all indications and gauges of pressures, temperatures, whatever.
3, 2, 1.
All that was left was a cloud of smoke and an impressed Lord Mayor.
It was a very, very impressive effort of teamwork. It's you see the rocket firing, but behind that is an enormous amount of exercise in getting it right.
The HMAS Newcastle will be deployed to Asia later this year.
Rowdy the Rabbit hopped off at the John Hunter's Children's Ward to spread an early Easter message. He'd been invited by the Starlight Foundation to be today's special guest. Although some of these children will be home by next weekend, most will spend their Easter in hospital. But Rowdy was making sure no one would miss out on the chocolate goodies the Easter bunnies prepared. Some received their gifts gladly, others were a little overwhelmed. And while these children have a head start on some Easter treats, the rest of us have just over a week to wait.
The titles, which begin tomorrow, have attracted interest from across the world. Australia is regarded as the forefront of surf lifesaving, making this event the ultimate testing ground for the sport. The importance of this is not lost on Barcelona Olympic gold medalist Clint Robinson, who has entered 5 events this weekend.
I think on a worldwide scale, it certainly is great to win an Olympic gold medal because it's such a huge sport. But the Australian Championships, Australia dominates in surf lifesaving, so basically to win your national title is like to win a world title nearly, and yeah, it does mean a lot to a lot of people, and certainly me.
It is the first time Surf Club Swansea Belmont has hosted the Australian titles, and the beachfront has been turned into a mini-city with tons of scaffolding and tents. It has not overwhelmed 15-year-old local boy Adrian Tobin, who is competing in his first Australian titles in the under-16 Ironman event.
I really want to go well in the Ironman because I'm competing up a year, so I want to beat all the guys that are a year up and sort of embarrass them.
Club mate Sean Davis has won the board rescue event at the national titles the past 2 years running. Another gold this year would be all that much sweeter at his home beach.
I know the beach very well, I know all the conditions, I know where all the waves break, and I can use this to my advantage hopefully and come up with the goal.
Jenny Allchurch is the mother of a 5-week-old baby boy and over the past 3 months has been subjected to the unwanted early morning antics of a prowler.
Tapping on the floorboards underneath the house, scratching on windows, tapping on windows, indecent exposure, cross-dressing, wearing my dresses, women's clothes.
The attacks usually happen around 2 or 3 in the morning, but the prowler flees when police are called. Other women have reported waking to find a man standing over their beds dressed in women's clothes. He's described as about 20 years old, 180 centimetres tall, and as being clean-cut looking. Police suspect the same man has been responsible for other intrusions around the neighbourhood. On at least 2 occasions they've had calls from a man who says he's wearing women's clothes and he's in people's homes without them knowing it. After confronting the man once on the veranda of her home, Jenny isn't taking any chances. She's upgraded the security around the house and has a pitchfork and pickaxe handle at the ready. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
she disappeared from her home down there. The last time she was sighted down there was last seen by her parents down.
No, the hours they didn't get.
Billed as the talk of the town, The Voice has got tongues wagging across the country. Like a moth to a flame, nearly 300,000 fans at 34 concerts have seen him perform. An appeal the 45-year-old singer finds a little overwhelming.
People ask me that all the time, you know, what do you think it is? I really don't go around thinking, hey, I wonder what it is that I have. You know, it's not really a thing.
John's latest album, Then Again, has gone triple platinum, but fans can expect some golden oldies in the repertoire, even that song about a certain cleaning lady.
Sometimes I don't get asked. I'm waiting for that day, but no, she'll make an appearance if she's asked, yeah.
Tickets for tonight's concert in Newcastle sold out within 3 hours. It was a similar response for the second one, but you might just be lucky there's limited seats available for Sunday's final performance. Happy to play in Newcastle?
Oh yeah, I'm happy to play anywhere. Anywhere there's more than 2 people in the crowd, I'm happy.
The 2 arenas at Lochinvar Equestrian Centre had recovered enough from the overnight rain to cope with the dressage. More than 100 horses and riders pounded the damp and soft ground in an attempt to impress the 3 judges with their horse control.
It's an important phase in making the horse controllable and working on the flat. It also helps them jump better, which is very strange because they actually become more controllable and more forward, and it's an easier way to control your horse.
The Lochinvar 3-day event is one of the best equestrian competitions in not only Australia but the world. It has been given an international 3-star ranking, which can only be bettered by the rare 4-star events, which include the Olympics and World Championships. As such, it has attracted riders from overseas, including this rider, Neil Mitchell from Hong Kong, who finished 20th in the dressage. Tomorrow, the spectacular cross-country and show jumping will begin.
Several thousand people lined the streets of the town for the annual parade. Dozens of floats traced a path from West Kempsey down Belgrade Street along the Pacific Highway and up to 4th Street. The Kempsey Silver Band led the procession, joined by music stars Owen Blundell, Shorty Ranger and Les Partel. Some locals claim the town is the cradle of Australian country music, with Slim Dusty and Shorty Ranger both born in Kempsey. The entertainment will continue tonight with a concert at Kempsey RSL. Tomorrow, an awards concert will also be held at the RSL.